and DID. I'm Danny. I'm here with Cat Tulip, and we're on our DIDnD&D version.
So the first thing this week I think we should tackle is obviously if you haven't watched the last video, people go and watch it because this is about the last video, so it'd be really helpful if you watched it. In the last video we had a really smooth shift between Danny to Anita and then back to Danny again, and so really, Danny, from your point of view, watching that back, how was that for you?
Weird. Really, really swear word weird.
This is the best version for the internet.
Yeah, this is the clean version. Yeah, like I haven't seen anything like that before, where it's so fluidly me, and then not, and then back to me again, and I'm like, oh wow, that's like so subtle that like it's like I just kind of slowly faded as someone else faded through, and the transition was just so.
I think I described it to Danny earlier, internet, as it was like I was having a conversation with Danny, and halfway through the conversation she walked out the room, and then Anita walked in and just picked the conversation up and then left, and you came back in, and it was like just this really smooth. And I don't know if you obviously watched it all then, but obviously the bit where she could tell you were coming back and she's like, oh, I can feel Danny. Do you know what? I'll step back and let her in when she's ready to. I thought that was really interesting as well, that there was almost this control over, you know, it's Danny's thing, so when Danny's now back, I'll be ready to step out and let her step in.
Yeah, that's really polite, like, and like, because when I was first diagnosed, like I had no idea what a switch looked like. I didn't know like what it was. I was, everything was based on like horror movies, you know, because that's all I knew about DID, is it's the mental illness they make horror movies from. And I was like, oh, it must be like this really sudden, sharp thing, and like, why hasn't anyone ever picked up on this, and how do people not know? Watching things like that, I'm like, no one's going to notice that. Like, everyone is going to be so oblivious to that if they see it in conversation that they're not going to see it, because it's so subtle, it's so just, it blends so easily. It's not like abrupt or something. And like with like Luna, when Luna came out in hers, I thought all the switches were going to be more like that, just like this very clear, different person.
So we have captured the mythical switch on video, and we've shown two different versions, actually. Really interesting. Two different, very, very different types of switches. So that real sudden, that when you were switching for Luna, you were trying to ground yourself. You could feel it coming on. Because I remember in the video, and again, guys, by all means, go back and re-watch. Luna's switch was first video. Or one of the first videos, but it was that real, you felt it coming on and you were trying to ground yourself, and then Luna burst out and it kind of physically very much came out. Whereas although you'd mentioned that you knew Anita was around, which is one of the reasons we'd done Anita last time, was because you'd felt Anita around, but it was very much just this really gradual, you know, there was no obvious warning from you that a switch was happening, no real trying to ground yourself. It just was like Danny stepped out and Anita stepped in, and it was a very polite switch. It was very, very calm and quiet. There was no massive signifier. So like with the Luna one, you massively signified that you were about to switch. The only signifier I think you had with the Anita one is your eyes started to flutter slightly, which is what I picked up on. I think you started to do that slight, but again, it was so gentle. And the only reason, as we said, that I knew that it was Anita that came out is I just watched the Anita video to remind myself of her character build and her stats. So as soon as I heard that voice change, I was like, Danny, Anita, you know.
You're like, I've just heard that voice.
I know that's not you. But it was really, really subtle. Obviously, for those who haven't watched it, go and watch it. If you have watched it, let us know what your feedback is on the different experiences. You know, go and watch the Luna switch versus the Anita switch and really see how that difference is. And, you know, let us know your thoughts, internet, on that, because it's about highlighting the subtleties and, you know, that it's not this stigma thing. You know, Danny didn't severely change into someone, but she actually did at the same time. I mean, it's really fascinating to go, and we were just talking before we started recording about particularly the Anita one, that whole change in the way that Danny's face looks, the jaw almost changes. Anita seems to have a sort of squarer jaw than you. Your posture changes. You know, the way you sit and the way you take up. Anita takes up a lot less space in a lot of ways.
She's so cool. I can never be that cool.
We had a discussion internet about how cool we think Anita is. At some point though, Danny, you do know she's going to watch one of these videos.
And she'll get an ego. But like one thing that I find really interesting is how you mentioned like my face seems to change. And there is research, like actual scientific research, where like the muscle tones and things change depending on who's fronting. And there's like an MRI study of someone that switches under the MRI thing, and the host is blind but one of the alters isn't, and they actually the muscles twinge on the occipital lobes to kind of alter the vision perspective, so lots of alters need glasses and things like that. And one thing that I found really funny is I've always had a thing with Face ID on my phone, where sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, and I always thought it was just a fault with the Face ID until
now we know exactly what it is.
Yeah, and I was looking at my phone going, oh, my Face ID isn't working again. And then my friend was like, which one of you set up the phone? And I was like, it would have been Anita. So I was like, so I tried to do like a really relaxed kind of thing, and the Face ID worked. And I was like,
because it's not Danny's face that set up the phone, it would have been Anita's. But of course, Anita would have set up the phone because I'm assuming she's the one who understands the technology about
she does everything technical. Like, I mean, my laptop, my iPad that I'm running from is, I don't remember setting it up. And then I remember looking at it, and the iPad is called Anita Rocks. and I think it's like the first time where she's ever kind of felt comfortable enough to kind of go, yeah, I'm the one doing all of this.
Oh, it's actually me. Well, it's like there was that, I remember the conversation we had when you struggled to put one of the videos up on the internet because you're having a sound issue. And I kept getting messages from Danny going, it's just not working, there's a sound, there's an audio issue. And then I got another message just said, it's done. Anita took over. I don't know how she did it. And you just managed to work out this problem, get the video up, sort out the technical thing. You're like, I don't know how I did that. But the video is now on the internet, and you were like, I'm assuming she's edited in all the bits that I wanted edited. I have no idea how the video looks. So that's the story of Danny's life.
Yeah, it happens a lot. Like, people are like, can you do this? I'm like, yeah. Then I'm like, no, I can't. And then it'll be done, and I'm like, yeah, I did it. But that's like a key thing with DID. And one thing that we were having a discussion about at one of the lunch meetings that I go to is about forgetfulness and amnesia, because everyone's forgetful. But with DID and with lower forms of other trauma things is you get dissociative amnesia, where you don't know what's happened. And I was like, well, I'm a really forgetful person anyway. I'm like, so how do I know the difference between when I've forgotten to do something or forgotten how to do something as to when like it's an amnesia block? And the therapist that was there during the thing was like, okay, it's like, imagine that you've planned to mow the lawn the next day and do some shopping. It's like a forgetful person. It's like at 3:00 in the afternoon, if someone comes up to them and says, have you mowed the lawn, done the shopping? We'll go, oh, no. It's like someone with DID and dissociative amnesia will look at the person and go, I don't know.
Shopping? What?
It'll be I don't know. They'll open the fridge and the fridge will be stocked. It's like, oh, well, clearly I did shop, but I don't remember doing it.
Yeah.
And that happens to me all the time. They're like, have you done that thing? And I'm like, I don't know. And then I'll open my emails and go, yes, I did. But it's not because I remembered that I've done it. It's because I see the evidence. And that's how I thought forgetfulness worked. I didn't realize that people had like this recall thing. I thought you only remembered that you did something because you'd seen the evidence, not because you meant. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And I think
you
because
don't have that recall necessarily, because obviously sometimes it isn't you who did it, so you can only go by the evidence. The thing has been done, but you don't have. And interestingly, if you switched into the right person, I suspect they would have the recall. So for example, if I was talking to Anita would probably have the recall for exactly how she put the video on. She would remember doing it. She'd have all of that information.
Yeah.
But you yourself don't.
No. And I see the biggest difference I see now, with as the awareness has grown over the past year, is with Danielle. So Danielle is the work me. So if you ever speak to me in a work context, it's Danielle that you're speaking to, and she is very much me. It's just she's got no personal attachments to anything other than work. She's a work robot, and she's fantastic at everything that she does. But she will do things, and I'm like, what? And she takes on so many different tasks, and has like a to-do list like that just never ends. But everything gets done. And I'm like, I can't do all this stuff. This is too much for me. And then boom, it'll be done. And I'm like, oh, cool. It's like I'll remember it's like sitting at my iPad and doing something, but I won't know exactly what it is that I've done. Or people ask me questions and I'm like, I don't know. But then if she's around, she'll remember everything that has ever been said or done about her work. It's like, because I always worried with this. It's like, well, what if I forget things at work? Like, what's going to happen? I'm like, actually, no, she doesn't. Her memory is amazing. She doesn't forget anything. Everything's done in 2 times.
Because it's not because you're actually forgetful. It's just that that's her section of the brain as opposed to your section of the brain. Before we get on to Faith, this is slightly off D&D topic, but myself and Danny had a conversation on Facebook about which house each of her characters are going to be in, and you asked me a question. I thought it was really apt to answer it today because we're talking about Faith, and actually I might now do this with each one as well as their D&D. What house are they? So I personally agree. I think Faith is Hufflepuff. I've thought long and hard about this because Hufflepuff are normally considered a little bit, oh, everyone's like, but actually they're really compassionate. They're quite brave. Mm-hmm. They care about animals and the world. You think, like, I'm thinking Newt Scamander. She's very much that kind of. She's brave, but brave in caring about the bunnies and the things. And I think Luna as well, probably Hufflepuff.
I think Luna would either be Gryffindor or Hufflepuff. I'm not sure which. I think she'd like to. I think she'd like to be, but it's based on your values as well as your actions, isn't it? So her actions don't necessarily match it.
I think both Faith and Luna make very good Hufflepuff and not Gryffindor, is because Gryffindor's about that bravery, and I think both of them have, but it's like we said with Luna. Luna would stop the traffic and cause an accident to save the bunny.
Yes.
And I think, but just as a little side, just wanted to bring in the house. So, as you will get to meet these characters, or alters people, let us know what you think. Because so far we've put Anita in Gryffindor.
Yeah, she's definitely a Gryffindor.
I think Scarlet might be a Slytherin.
I'm pretty sure whenever I've taken Pottermore, when I took the Pottermore quiz, I've come up as Slytherin a lot. Because I've done it twice in the 2 emails. One was Slytherin, one was Ravenclaw.
Yeah, and actually that's the reason why we're having this conversation, is that Danny did one of the games on Facebook and got Slytherin and was like, really? And quite often when Danny does one of these Facebook games and doesn't get gets a bit of a confusing result, usually my first question is, who took it? Are you sure it was you who took it? When you usually come up with a really is they're like the Slytherin or you get one that comes up and it's like, Danny's like really like mean, and you're like, no, I'm not, and I'm like, was it you who did it?
I don't know, maybe it was. But yeah, I've kind of, because at my friend's wedding she had a Harry Potter wedding, so I was Slytherin there because that's where I am in Pottermore. But I don't think I actually am.
See, I am Slytherin. That's because I'm okay with being shrewd and calculated and ambitious, but I don't think you are, sweetheart. I think maybe that definitely Scarlet has
that definitely is. I would
a cunning side.
We also saw it in the video
when she pretends to be you.
Exactly, that's just pure Slytherin, isn't it? It's basically like a Slytherin's had Polyjuice Potion. Like, and it's basically like pretending to be me. That is. I don't know if I would be like a Ravenclaw or a Hufflepuff or something. I don't know what I would be. I think I've got all houses within me. I know Danielle will definitely be a Ravenclaw.
Yeah, Danielle is, I think, Ravenclaw.
Like, without a
All
count.
about the learning, all about the intelligence, all about the study.
Yes.
So that's not D&D related, everyone, but, you know, just another fun, geeky way to look at the inside of Danny's head.
Which is, you know, a side part to everything. It's like, I want you guys to get to know me, because the biggest thing I want for this channel and for what we're doing in general is I want to reduce the stigma around multiple personalities. So I thought, if I can put a face to the name of the disorder, being me, and also show people the alters as people, so you know what alters look like, you know how they act like, so they're not these mysterious weird things. It's like, they're just personalities. Everyone has one. Some of us have more than one. That's the only difference.
That is the only difference.
So yeah, I want to humanize the ID rather than stigmatize it. So we'll get back to geekiness.
Get back to this. So we've got, this week I've got my player's handbook. We've got Xanathars, which we will be using for our druid, and Volos, which we'll be using for our race. So to start with, the stat numbers you have, well, you'll want your highest to be wisdom, because, you know, druid, that's for those who haven't built a druid before. Druids, so spellcasters have one of the abilities will be their spellcasting ability. So bards, and warlocks, it's charisma. Druids and clerics, it's wisdom, and your wizards, it's intelligence. I think sorcerers are also charisma. So it's what spellcasting thing you use. So we will want, obviously, your wisdom to be the highest. Your highest stat you had was 16. So for now, I will put that next to your wisdom, because she will need to be wise to be able to do her magics.
Yeah.
The other numbers you've got is 12, 11, 9, 14 and 14. So 9 will be what is your dump stat. Had you thought about what would be Faith's lowest?
Probably strength.
Okay.
Because she's an older lady just in general. And I think she would very much be the one that her strength comes from her magic and from the animals around her. So yeah, it's her strength from within. She doesn't have any real physical strength, but she's very much like the old lady that you wouldn't mess with, because she'll just get the tree roots to tie you up. Yeah.
Awesome.
I think she would have a very wicked side if someone was to threaten her family.
Okay.
And that kind of thing. I don't think she'd go like Dark Willow, as in Buffy, but definitely that kind of strength where she's seen as very weak and vulnerable. For anyone that watches like the Acquisitions Incorporate D&D streams, similar to Rosie Beestinger, you know, the really old monk. Do you watch the Acquisitions?
I don't, no.
Oh, you have to.
I don't have time to watch these things, but I will put it on my list.
I started with Acquisitions Inc. years and years ago, because I used to watch them live at like PAX, and we followed like Chris Perkins' lot for ages, and now it's moved over. But Rosie Beestinger's like this really, really, she's not your grandma's grandma, and she's just this really old monk, and she looks really fragile, but like she kicks ass, kind of like Yoda style. You know when Yoda does the flips?
So I'm thinking, so that works quite well. So for your Firbolg traits, your automatic increases for your ability scores is a +2 to wisdom. So if you put the 16 in there, that automatically makes your wisdom 18. Nice starting stat.
Yeah.
And your strength increases by 1. So we'll put the 9 in there, and then that makes that a nice tidy 10.
That's good.
It means you're not on a minus for strength, you're just on a flat 0.
Yeah.
I'd say I think Constitution should be one of the 14s, because I think that that's sort of your internal strength.
Yeah, I think she can hold her own in battle for a long time. So I think she would be able to like resist things really well and help maintain her concentration for her spells and that kind of stuff. Because it's that your Constitution.
Yeah, I know your Constitution is really good. Yeah, so if you're when you do a Constitution concentration check. Yes. If you take damage when you're holding a concentration spell, it will be your Constitution. So that's quite nice to have that up as a spellcaster. Little tip, internet, if you're building a spellcaster, it's always good to have good Constitution, because you're going to have to do those concentration checks for your spells. so many of your spells, all the cool ones, all the good spells, are concentration. So being able to hold your own and hold that concentration, and being able to do the Constitution saving throw for your concentration, it's always good to have a decent con. Yeah. So out of Dex, Intelligence and Charisma, where do you think she's at? Which one do you think? So you've got a 12, 11 and a 14 left to spend.
The Dex would probably be the second lowest.
Okay, so the 11.
I don't think she's going to be overly dexterous in her. And Firbolgs, they're big, cow type.
Yeah.
They're not. You're not talking to Baxi here, So I put into Dex. But for the Intelligence and the Charisma, for a druid, which of those is better for her spells?
She won't be used really either for spells, but I'm looking at, trying to think about the other things that Faith might want to do. If she's interested in things like history, or being able to investigate, that'd be Intelligence. I mean, she's already got the key things from her wisdom, so Insight I think she'd be quite high with. Medicine she'd be quite high with. Nature is actually an Intelligence, so I would say in that instance I would then put, because the Charisma is all about your performance, persuasion, and your intimidation and your deception, and I kind of always imagine Faith is pretty straight with how she talks.
Yeah.
I think Faith, if she's persuading, it's more on the strength of what she's saying and her knowledge, rather than trying to lie to someone or convince them. So maybe we want the 14 to be the Intelligence, because then that will give her good nature roll stat, because it's important for her. I think nature is going to be quite an important part of Faith's build.
Yeah.
And then maybe we'll make the Charisma 11.
Okay, yeah.
Doesn't mean she's uncharismatic, but she's probably a bit more straight talking. She's not interested in
she doesn't mess around. She's soft, and she won't. I think she would very much do a, oh honey, that was stupid. It would be a very blunt thing, but in a very nice way.
Yeah. Have you thought about her age? So, for example, a Firbolg reaches adulthood around 30, and they can live up to 500 years. So you've said Faith's quite old.
I'd put her a good couple of hundred, I think.
So a good couple of hundred just gives her an idea of her Firbolg.
Yeah, because she seems to have that kind of. She's like the ancient lady that you would go and seek knowledge from. So like in any Disney films, there's always an old wise tree or ancestor or something that she's basically that of my system, and she's always been that kind of person for me. Because when I was young, she was like my imaginary friend sort of thing. She was like my spirit guide, and I would do meditations and that kind of thing. So she's always been like the guiding thing.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's fine.
Relatively old, not too old that she can't do anything.
No. Sort of mid-range, like you said, about 200-ish.
Yeah.
Alignment. So, obviously there's neutral, which is those who prefer to steer clear of moral questions, don't take sides in doing things. Quite often druids are neutral. I think we talked to her about her having that very neutral aspect, or you could have neutral good. So folks do the best they can to help others according to their needs.
Yeah, I think she would be. Let me have a look. I've got
You put the player's handbook there.
I have. A friend sent me some nice funny alignment charts as well. She's definitely on the
good side.
She's definitely on the good side, but it would be more of the neutral sort of thing, because she would not try to save everything. Like, she's old enough and she's in tune with nature enough that sometimes you have to let things take their own course, even as heartbreaking as it might be.
Okay, so we'll put it down as neutral.
So-
Now I'm thinking background is quite easy. So there's the hermit background in this, and I just feel that always works really. I always find that hermit or sage for me works really well with a druid, and for this type of druid being a Firbolg as well, I think definitely
Hermit.
go with the hermit.
So for those that don't know the hermit background,
That don't know the hermit background, I can bring this up. So the backgrounds, obviously, as we talked before, give you a little bit of extra things that you're proficient in. So the hermit, for particularly, they live in seclusion, either sheltered community like a monastery or potentially on their own. They like time apart from the clamour of society. They like to find quiet solitude, maybe to find the answers they were looking for. So I think that really works quite well with Faith as a person. You get the automatic skill proficiency. So the great thing about your background, when you're building your character, it's really important to think about your background as well, because and take into account your background when you're the skills you get set from that, because when you do your class, you'll be potentially picking extra skills. So it's really good to make sure that you're not picking any skills from your class that you're already getting in your background. So for this, you get medicine and religion, which I think would probably are quite good for Faith.
okay.
They're just set with the background. But what's quite nice is I was probably going to suggest medicine for her anyway, but now you don't need to waste that in your class build.
Yeah.
And you get your tool proficiency of your herbalism kit. So each type of background relating to each type of character will have tools that they're proficient with. So something that's more of a thievery background will have thieves' tools. You might have your herbalism kit or medicine kits that you're proficient with. So had you thought about the languages that you can speak? So from your Firbolg, you get Common,
Yeah.
Elvish, and Giant. With your background, you can have one more language.
So I forgot Elvish, Giant,
And Common.
Is it only rogues that can speak?
Yeah, Thieves' Cant is very specific for.
I was like, because it'd be really cool if an old lady knew Thieves' Cant.
Well, what she'll already get, so she'll get, like with Thieves' Cant, because she's a druid, she'll get, there is the druidic language that only druids can read and write. So she'll already get her druid language. But she can have dwarfish, gnomish, goblin, halfling, orc, which is your standard languages in D&D, and then what they like to call your exotic languages.
I was like, what are the exotic ones? So something like, I think in like infernal or abyssal or celestial.
You get abyssal, celestial, deep speech, draconic, infernal, primordial, Sliven, which is the fey creatures, or undercommon.
Fey creatures.
Yep. Okay, so we'll put that down.
Because she's in the woods a lot.
Yeah.
So chances are she's probably going to spend a bit of time dabbling around in Feywilds and fey creatures.
So we have her background stats in place. We've got her other stats there. So we've put her Firbolg in. The additional things that you'll get as a Firbolg. So we've chosen her alignment. The size, Firbolgs are between 7 and 8 feet tall. They're still medium, but they're big creatures.
Yep.
They have detect magic and disguise self, which is one of their own Firbolg traits that they get.
That's cool.
But what's really, really, really great about the Firbolg version of disguise self, they can seem up to 3 feet shorter than their normal height. So it's the only time with disguise self you can disguise the illusion of how tall you are. So that's quite cool. They get hidden step. So as a bonus action, she will be able to magically turn herself invisible till the start of the next turn or until she attacks. And they have, I like this one, speech of beast and leaf. They have the ability to communicate in a limited manner with beasts and plants. They understand the meaning of your words. You don't have a special ability to understand them back, but you do have advantage on charisma checks when you're trying to influence them. So again, I quite like that idea of having better commune with the languages.
Yeah. I'll just thought now is hello bees. It's just in my head now.
Yeah. Basically, I think Taliesin does it really well with Caduceus, that quite often Matt's like, it's not going to be able to talk back to you, and he's like, no, that's fine, I just want to say hello to all the animals, and he's the one who's going up when they get a horse who's calming the horse, and I just quite like that touch of always having that communication.
Yeah, I think she would very much be the one that, kind of like Snow White feels. She would go around the woods, she would talk to all the animals, she would sing to them all. And similar to like what I would do with my dogs, it's just they would understand more, and she would talk about them. And then if they wanted to commune back, that would be their choice. So yeah, that would be a.
So now on to your druid. So as you can see on the internet, each time we've done something, I've gone to the relevant page in the book. And what's really great in the book, you'll see here, it will tell you the automatic things you get from this class, background, race, and anything that you can choose as specific. So right now we're on the proficiencies that Dani gets, or Faith even gets, from the druid class. So she automatically gets intelligence and wisdom as her saving throws, which is good. We won't worry about the armor and the weapons today. We'll choose those later. So now you get to pick 2 skills for your you automatically get from your class, and you can choose between Arcana, Animal Handling, Insight, Medicine, Nature, Perception, Religion, or Survival. So what 2 things out of that do you think would be really good for Faith?
Animal's got to be on there, hasn't it? Maybe Animal Handling and Nature? Or will Perception and Survival be better for her?
I mean, obviously she's got good wisdom anyway, and they're all wisdom based, so she's already getting that.
That's the bit that I think would be interesting for anyone that watches, of how to kind of see what you've got. So rather than picking what you want, kind of go, well, I get those because I have this. So what else? To like expand her a little bit more. The time when people make characters is they have this focus in mind of what they want, and it's like, well, yeah, but you get that because you're pretty high with your intuition anyway.
Well, this is the thing about for everyone at home, there's several ways you can build a character. Now, I am a big fan of building to what either entertains me, amuses me, is really easy, great to role play. So sometimes I'm not overtly helpful with my character builds for the rest of the party because I've entertained myself. Whereas I know other people who are, well, what will maximize my stats? How will I best be the most efficient character? Well, actually, I don't need to put that up because I've already got this quite high. So with the ones that you've mentioned, they're all wisdom. So ultimately, I think you're right. Survival, perception, nature, and animal handling would all be really, really useful. But you have a plus 4 already for your wisdom, and 3 of those things are wisdom. Nature is intelligence.
Okay.
So it might be a good idea if you wanted to put that as a proficient. Again, sometimes people think about, well, what is going to be useful in a game? How useful is nature going to be for the party for succeeding in the story? My opinion is, don't worry about the story. Don't worry about succeeding or winning. Worry about building what is right in your heart. I am a big fan of picking useless spells and useless skills that just add that flavour to the character.
Yeah, it's nice for some characters to kind of go, I'm out of my depth.
Yeah.
Like, I can't do anything here.
I had one of my players had a brilliant, so he picked Prestidigitation for one of his spells, wizard spell, and it's, you know, it's alright, it's a cleaning up spell, but he literally, every battle they went into, he'd clean up afterwards with Prestidigitation, and that's where their name, the party's name now, is Cleansing Flame, comes from the fact that this early character, Meryl, who's not even part of the party anymore, used to go around cleaning up afterwards.
Aww.
It's just a really nice touch. My druid uses, she has Druidcraft. Obviously, most druids always pick Druidcraft as a cantrip. And again, it doesn't really do much, but she makes puppy illusions to entertain people. She often gifts people with flowers. Just quite often when someone's sad, she'll Druidcraft them a flower. So it's, again, those little flavour things as well.
Yeah, and
So,
but I think because she's quite old, I'm thinking that a religion or arcana might be quite good for her.
okay.
Because, like, as a young Faith, she would have been very much into nature, animal handling, but I think as, like, the tales of the world have kind of come through and she's realised that actually there's more to life than the little bubble that she lives in.
Okay. So you get religion already from your hermit background, so we can definitely go do arcana.
Yeah.
So you have one more to build. So you could take arcana and then maybe something like animal handling or nature.
What would the insight give us?
Insight's good for reading people.
Yeah, she's not that good on that.
That I definitely think that's Anita's remit.
Yeah. Arcana and animal handling, let's go for.
Okay, arcana, animal handling.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's so as standard with your druid character, you obviously have with the spell casting, you have a certain amount of spells. We won't go through the spells today. What I was thinking is actually we'll finish off because we're seeing each other in a couple of weeks. We'll maybe finish off the finer details of both Faith and Nita when we see each other. And maybe so we're not going to choose spells today, but for just for those building, because we're building a spellcaster and this is the first spellcaster we've built, you get in your player's handbook where you have your classes, your classes, you have a table that tells you at each level how many cantrips you get, how many known cantrips and how many spell slots. Now, druids and clerics are very different to other spellcasters. So with druids, you have a certain amount of known cantrips and a certain amount of spell slots and a certain amount of spells you can prepare in a day. In regards to spells you know, you get access to the entire spell list, all of them, same with clerics. So, but you have to prepare a certain amount. How that differs, internet, for wizards, for example, is wizards have a set amount of prepared spells and a set amount of known spells. Now, a wizard can add to them by finding spell scrolls and spending 25 gold pieces on the relevant paper to write it up. But it's quite interesting because it means that you don't have to be so clever with your thinking up front on what spells you want to take, but you have to get your head around knowing the entire spell list to be able to be really comfortable with that change between. The way you work out your prepared spells you can prepare versus spells that you can learn, it will always tell you in the book how you work that out. So it will always tell you what number at each level in the book. So I'm not going to tell you today, internet, because it's very difficult for each one. Your spellcasting DC for your druid is 8 plus the proficiency bonus. Now, I haven't decided what level we're going to build these yet, so I'm not sure what that proficiency is going to be, but it'll be 8 plus your proficiency plus your wisdom. We've got quite nice wisdom here. We've got a 4. So that's roughly, and as I don't know what level we're starting at because we actually haven't discussed that yet. We're going to leave that There,
We start at a relatively, not like too low, but relatively low, like maybe like 3 or 4. Give us time to maybe multi-class as we get used to playing. When it's like, actually, this one might. It's like I could see Faith taking on like a bit of cleric type things at some point.
Well, I find that I always think it's quite nice to start at like level 2 or 3. 3 will this be quite good, because any lower than that and you have the pain of going through just tripping over a blade of grass and it hurting, you know, step out of the inn, out, I'm dead. It gives you a little bit of health. It makes you feel a little bit powerful. Level 3, you're starting to feel a bit powerful. You don't think that everything and everyone is going to kill you, but you've still got a bit of time to get used to the character, to work out how they want to go.
Yeah.
Now, I believe that we settled on the type of druid was the Circle of Dreams, which is the one that's very in depth with the place and the fae and nature. Has the nice pool of energy to create a nice healing areas and nice kind of comfortable home effects.
Yeah, I was thinking either the Circle of Dreams or the Circle of Shepherd.
The Circle of Shepherd, actually, do you know what? Because I think last time we picked the Circle, we talked about the Circle of Dreams and the Circle of the Moon. And then I just remembered the Circle of the Shepherd, which is very much about their connection to animals.
Yeah, and it's more of like a protector, because they still get the fae influence that they do in the dreams, but it seems like in the Circle of Dreams they're very kind of, they remind me like Luna Lovegood, you know, they're very kind of airy fairy in a sense, whereas the Circle of the Shepherds, they are that kind of airy, but they have a stronger protective stance. Yeah. So I think that builds into her kind of matriarchal protector of the.
Yeah. So for the internet, so the opening part for Circle of Shepherds says, Druids of the Circle of the Shepherd commune with the spirit of nature, especially the spirits of beasts and the fae, and call on those spirits for aid. These druids recognise that all living things play a role in the natural world, yet focus on protecting animals and fae creatures that have difficulty defending themselves. Shepherds, as they are known, see such creatures as their chargers. I think that's actually quite a nice way to describe, in a way, maybe her role in the collective as well. That you're like her chargers.
Because she's very much like a caretaker.
Yeah.
Like, she doesn't really do that much protection outside.
No, but it's
very much an inner emotional.
Because I think when I think of chargers, it's almost like there's that slightly parental aspect. And we talked about how she is sort of the mum and the
yeah, she's like the mum granny of the.
Yeah, she's everyone's favourite granny who's not actually a granny.
Yeah. Yeah, she's that lady that, you know, all the kids on the street would go to the house to have like cookies and stuff. She'd be sat on the front porch on the swing and people would just sit and talk to her. And, you know, if she was sat looking over and a kid was getting bullied, she'd be the one that goes over and intervenes, regardless of any kind of lineage to that child. Yeah, she is.
Okay. So we'll go with, I think I like that Circle of the Shepherd. So the last thing we're going to do in the background is just make a note of the personality traits and ideals from your background. And then, other than deciding on the finer things like spells and stuff and rolling hit points, which we can do when you're here in a few weeks. So, for Hermit, the personality traits that you can pick. Now, you can pick one of these or you can roll the random D8 if you want. Personality trait. I've been isolated for so long that I rarely speak, preferring to gesture and the occasional grunt. I'm utterly serene even in the face of disaster. The leader of my community has something wise to say on every topic and I'm eager to share that wisdom. I feel tremendous empathy for all who suffer. I'm oblivious to etiquette and social expectations. I connect everything that happens to me to a grand cosmic plan. I often get lost in my own thoughts and contemplations, becoming oblivious to my surroundings. I am working on a grand philosophical theory and love sharing my ideas.
Either the second one, or the cosmic plan one.
Okay.
What do you think?
I mean, I'm quite. I mean, so it was the either I collect everything that happens to me, grand and cosmic plan, and I'm utterly serene in the face of disaster. I mean, I can say I'm happy for her to have the 2 personality traits.
Okay.
So I'm just going to put a note of 2 and 6.
Because like everything can be on fire around her, and she'll be like, "It's okay, it's fine, you know."
But actually, for her, I think that they do work really well together, because I think her serenity comes from that idea that everything is meant to happen that way. That nature has a cosmic plan. It's all meant to happen that way. So even if that tree burns down, it is very sad, but it was meant to happen, and actually it will feed back into the circle of life. So it's actually important, and that's why she's serene.
Yeah.
So her ideals, now the one that sits with neutral is live and let live. Meddling in the affairs of others only causes trouble.
Yeah.
So
it's like she won't purposely that she will defend against things. If there's an incoming attack, she will, do things. But if there's like or investigating a political type thing, she'll be like, "No, it's not my place. I'm gonna stay in the woods."
So bond, nothing is more important than the other members of my hermitage, my order, or my association. I entered seclusion to hide from the ones who might still be hunting me. I must someday confront them. I am still seeking the enlightenment I pursued in my seclusion, and it still eludes me. I entered seclusion because I loved someone I could not have. Should my discovery come to light, it could bring ruin to the world. My isolation gives me great insight into great evil that only I can destroy.
First one?
I think that works really well, and especially considering, her role within that collective, and making sure that everybody feels safe in that. Now we have to pick our flaw. Now that I've returned to the world, I enjoy its delights a little too much. I harbour dark, bloodthirsty thoughts that my isolation and meditation failed to quell. I am dogmatic in my thoughts and philosophy. I let my need to win arguments overshadow friendship and harmony. I risk too much to uncover a lost bit of knowledge. I like keeping secrets and won't share them with anyone.
Maybe the secrets one.
Okay. Now, what I think is quite interesting is going to be building the flaws into the alters, because obviously the essence of what an alter is almost a perfect version of something to hide behind, to protect yourself. So I think that's going to be quite interesting, having to think about them in terms of, personality traits and ideals, but also flaws. And I suspect that there are certain alters you'll be easier able to think of flaws than others.
Oh gosh, yeah. As you read through the list, I'm like, that's that person. Yep, that's them. I'm like, oh, I'm not sure if that one would be. So yeah, it'll be
interesting.
Yeah.
So I think we've done a pretty damn good job. See, internet, there's all the markings on the page. I think what we do is next time we see each other, which is in a few weeks.
a dragon mate.
Yay! We can finish these off, and then we will share a photograph of the final character sheets for you all, so you can see exactly where we've put everything. I know we haven't quite finished Anita as well. The only thing we hadn't added in was her gunslinger, so we've done her backgrounds, we've done her personality traits, and we've done her race. We hadn't input in her class, so we have that to finish off, and we've got some spells to pick for our druid here, and then we will share them with the internet. Yay!
All right, but hope everyone's. I'm sinking in my seat here.
And I've lost my pencil, so I can't write anymore now anyway.
Oh no. But yeah, I hope that you're enjoying the series, everyone, and that you're learning a little bit about DID and D&D. So yeah, this is all building up to the campaign that we will be running. Who's going to join us on that? We haven't decided yet.
No. But we've still got a little bit of time. There's a few things we need to still figure out about that. Hopefully we're meeting soon so we can have more talks, but and we're hoping that we're both going to be at Dragon Meet. So if you're at Dragon Meet, I know there are a few of our people watching who will be at Dragon Meet. Hello, yes, we know you're there. You're going to be there. But yeah, so if you're at Dragon Meet, come and find us, come and say hello. But come and say hello to us. Do approach us. Come and say hello. And this is going to be the first time that me and Danny have been in the same room, building, facility, event since we've started this, and since obviously you have told me about your diagnosis. So that'll be interesting for us as well. It is literally been
a year, because it was Comic-Con last year.
Yeah.
So.
It'll be a year and a month when we go to MCM. I think date-wise, I think it's a year and a month since we first were in public together. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us once again, everybody. I hope you enjoyed the faith building and you got a little bit of information about how to build yourselves a druid. Yeah.